welcome to Stat Anatomy. In this video we'll be covering nervous and muscular tissue. Once again, we're calling that there are 4 tissue types: epithelial, connective, nervous, and muscular. So first we're going to cover nervous tissue. Nervous tissue looks usually like this. You have a neuron, which is kind of what everyone assumes is basically does the main communication. So it has dendrites, a cell body, and axon. The dendrites are going to be receiving information from previous cells. Cell body, axon sending it out. Glial cells are kind of the supporting cells, which are right here. All of these. There's multiple different types of glial cells, which we'll go over in future videos. But basically, they're the main support structures for the neuron. They reproduce and regenerate very quickly. So if you have a nervous system tumor or cancer, it's going to be a glioma or glial cells. It's very rare that you're going to have a neuroma because neurons themselves don't regenerate or split hardly ever. So that's why you're going to have cancer and glial cells. My anatomy teacher described neuron as like a super popular celebrity, and the glial cells are all the helpers. So if their stylist and their manager and all of these leave them, the neuron doesn't know what to do and can't function. So in a lot of diseases like Parkinson's, it is the glial cells that are damaged, so then the neurons can't function properly because they don't have their helper support. So on a slide, you look for these big cells that kind of web out, and it's pretty easy to identify in nervous tissue. Let's move on to muscles. Muscles, there are 3 different types of muscles. There is skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. So this is just a comparison chart, which is very helpful, and then we're going to look at some slides. First, we're going to talk about skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is attached to your bones, which is going to do your main movement. It is voluntary, unbranched, striated, so it has stripes, and is multinucleated, and the nucleuses are on the peripheral or the sides of the cells. And the skeletal muscle cells are really, really, really long. And here's a slide of them. So you can see there's no branching in the cell. They're super long. The nucleuses are on the sides, and they line up in fibers. We'll talk about what creates the striping in a future video, the sarcomeres of the muscles. But this is a basic look at the skeletal muscle. And to talk about its difference between the other muscles, we're going to talk about how fast it can contract and how long it can hold its contractility. Skeletal muscle can react really fast, and because it's under voluntary control, and you have to get back from the hot stove. But it can't stay contracted for very long because you can't hold a push-up for as long as you want. There's an amount, you can build it up, but if I try to do a push-up, I could probably hold it to 2 seconds and then I'd have to let go because the skeletal muscle cannot hold their contracted state very long. Next, we'll talk about smooth muscle, which are lining hollow organs or tubes. They're tapered at the end, they're elongated, they only have one nucleus, which is in the center. They have no striations, and they have no branching. So here's a photo. I've heard people say that it looks very like dense, regular connective tissue, which is, I kind of see it, but in order to tell them apart, you can look how big the nucleus is. In dense regular connective tissue, the nucleus-looking parts are very squished and wouldn't look like this, and it looks more densely packed. And smooth muscle looks like this, and you can kind of look, the shape is kind of a squished thing that goes out like that. And smooth muscles are very slow when they contract because they're just kind of doing peristalsis and moving food through the digestive system or moving blood through the veins, like very smooth, slow. But since it's so slow, it can stay contracted for a very long time. So it'll be slow, but it can hold that contracted position for super long, and that kind of makes sense. Fast contractility, you can't contract it very long. Slow contract, you can hold it for a long time. Next, we're going to talk about cardiac muscle tissue, which is my favorite because I'm a fan of the heart. So it is kind of have shorter cells, but they branch off. There's one nucleus in the center. It's striated like skeletal muscle. It's involuntary, and it's located in the walls of the heart, the myocardium. Here's a photo of skeletal muscle. You can see if we're just looking at this cell, it branches right here, and it has one central nucleus, and it looks shorter than the other ones. But you can still see the striations. Another thing about cardiac muscle that's important to remember is they have intercalated discs, which are connecting in between the skeletal muscles. There are these kind of white stripes. They help speed up the communication between the heart cells so they all contract at the same time. Intercalated discs are what they're called. And cardiac muscle is kind of the middle of both of them. So they're the medium speed of contractility and they're the medium hold. And that's kind of good functionality because you want to continue to just pump. So you don't want it to be like super fast because that's atrial fibrillation or ventricular fibrillation. And you don't want it to be super slow, bradycardia. You want it to be at a normal medium speed. And you want it to be able to hold at a normal speed because you don't want it to get stuck. You don't want it to release too quickly. You want it to be a nice medium beat because the heart is something you don't want to mess with. You just want your nice beat. So those are the 3 different types of skeletal muscle. I would suggest looking at drawing up a chart like this so you can really identify the functions that are different and look at the pictures to decide how the slides are different. Thanks for watching. Bye.